Hello friends, welcome. Today we would be discussing, continuing our sessions on percentage problems. Today we would be discussing what I call differentiating problems. So what does it mean by when I say differentiating problems? So these problems are what make a difference between a successful and a not so successful student, right? So that is some students would take a lot of time to solve such problems, but other students would have insights which would enable them to solve these problems very quickly, and in some ways they know shortcuts to these problems, right? We'll discuss a myriad of problems today. I think 4 or 5 6 or 7 problems today. All of them would seemingly have different tricks to them, right? That's what you would feel, but ultimately when you are practicing these problems, any percentage problems, even these problems, right, you practice them again and again, your objective should be to solve any and all such problems in shortest possible time. That's what you should do. You should not use the most direct method, but you should invent alternate methods which take less and less time. This is what you should do when you practice, not in, of course, real exam. So here is the first problem, right? The problem is saying that there is a person who has 10,000 rupees, okay, and he invests it. First part he invests at 5% and the remaining he invests at 6%. At the end of 1 year, what does he find? He finds that his 5% investment bore him 76.50 rupees more than his 6% investment, and that's what we know at the end of first year. The question asks us, if this is the case, how much did he invest at 6%? Most students, almost all of the students here, what they would do is they would say 100x, assume 100x for this, assume 100y for this. Most students would actually assume x and y, but of course we have been doing this together, so we know better. We would assume 100x and 100y because ultimately we have to do some calculations in percent, so we know better. But students would still assume two variables. They would say 100x plus 100y is equal to 10,000, and then subsequently they would calculate interest on this 100x, which would be 5x, and of course this would be 6y, and the difference between their interest is given as 76.50. Right? So that's where the problem would start, and ultimately they would go on to solve these two equations, which is not so difficult either, but they would solve these two equations in two variables and arrive at a value of y. This is how most students would do it. But let's just analyze this problem a little bit more. Let's try to be a little more creative or lazy, if you will, right? Let's try to be a little more creative and get a little more insight into the problem. So let's assume for 1 minute that instead of investing different amounts, this person were to invest same amount. So he invested 5,000 here, he invested 5,000 here. How much interest would he earn at the rate on 5,000 rupees at the rate of 5%? 250 rupees. How much would he earn at the rate of 6%? He would earn 300 rupees. At the end of 1 year, we would find that the amount at 6% earned 50 rupees more, and that's to be expected. To increase the interest on this side, right? This amount is fairly balanced, but the interest is not so much. We have 50 rupees more here. To increase the amount of interest on this side, right, after 1 year, we have to transfer some money from this 5,000 on 6% to this side. That's what we have to do. Right? As I decrease the quantity of money here and increase the quantity of money here, interest here would keep on increasing. So let's assume that we shifted 100x rupees from this side to this side. So what would happen to the interest? We would lose 6% on this 100x, which means my interest here would decrease by minus 6x, and we would gain 5% interest on this 100x, which means on this side my interest would increase by plus 5x. What's the net difference that I have created? Net difference in interest that I have created because of this transfer of 100x is 5x plus 6x decreased on this side, 5x increased on this side, therefore it's 5x plus 6x or 11x. But of course, we don't want to create a difference of 11x. Our question tells us that I need to transfer, starting with 5,000 rupees, I need to transfer money from this side to this side so that I not only reduce this 50 to 0, right? On 6% I reduce, not only I am reducing that to 0, but I am also increasing the amount here to the interest here to 76.50, right? So I am not only balancing the interest on both sides, reducing this amount to 0 on this that side, but also I need to transfer so much so that I increase the interest on this side relative to the other side, on the 5% side, to 76.50. So this is the amount of difference I need to create. 50 decreased on that side, 76 increased on that side. That's the amount of difference I have to create. This total comes out to be 112, this comes to 126.50. This is what it comes out to be. Of course, from here I can calculate the value of x. X would come out to be 126.50 divided by 11. But of course, we are not interested in x. We really want how much do I need to transfer. Starting with 5,000 on both sides, how much do I need to transfer? That is, of course, we know 100x. So 100x is, just multiply this by 100, it comes out to be 50 divided by 11. If you simplify it, the amount that I need to transfer comes out to be 1150. So starting with 5,000 here, 5,000 here, I need to transfer 1150 to match the condition in the question. When I am transferring 1150, this amount becomes 5,000 minus 1150, which I have moved from here to here, and therefore the answer is 3850, right? Most like successful students, right, who are solving this question in seconds, right, would actually start from here. So the people who are solving this question in seconds would start from here, whereas other students would take a lot of time. So keep in mind that when you are wasting your time, you are losing marks in some other question. Not only that, but this method is more direct in the sense that you are less likely to make mistakes here. It is more directly evolved from the language of the question. So you are less likely to make mistakes here. So not only are you getting this question correct, you are saving time, valuable time, mind you, on other problems. So this is the key, and you don't need such insights on all the problems. There are a few problems, maybe 10 or 20 in your exam. If you can get such insights and instead of solving it in minutes, you solve it in seconds, you are done, you are all set. Now, let's move on to the second problem. Again, we will see what would be the long method and then what would be the slightly shorter method of doing the same problem. So here it is. The problem is, there are 4 friends, A, B, C and D. Now they have purchased a very expensive pen, mind you. Okay, so they have purchased a pen at the cost of 5600. So that is indeed a very expensive pen. I hope we don't have to go through that here. So then 5600, and there are 4 friends, A, B, C and D. So these are 4 friends. They purchased a pen for this much. What are we being told? We are told that, of course, the sum of their amounts, right? Let's assume them to be A, B, C and D. The sum of the amounts A plus B plus C plus D is 5600. We are also told that there is some relation between their shares. So for example, B plus C plus D is 460% of A. So that's the equation right here. And the next equation is A plus C plus D is equal to 366.66% B. And similarly, the share of C is 40% of this one. So there are 3 equations here. One equation is the total equation that we have here, A plus B plus C is 5. So there are 4 equations and there are 4 unknowns, A, B, C, D. So obviously you can solve, and we know how to solve 4 equations and 4 unknowns, although it wouldn't be very pretty, but nonetheless we should be able to do that. I mean, it will take a huge lot of time. Let's not go there. Let's try to see how we can solve it little bit quicker. So first, I don't like these percentages so much, they are kind of ugly. So let's convert them to fractions, 23 by 5. So what does it mean? It means that A plus B plus C plus D is 23 by 5 of A. Right? So whatever A is, if A, I assume it to be 5x, then B plus C plus D, this total comes out to be 23x. Right? This is what it is telling me. It's 23 by 5 of 5x, which is 23x. So B plus C plus D is 23x if A is assumed to be 5x. Similarly, the share of A plus C plus D, so if I say A, C and D is 366.66 of B, which 366.66 comes out to be 11 by 3. So if I assume B to be 3y, these three total would come out to be 11y. Last thing, C is 40%. 40 is 2 by 5 of A, B and D. A, B and D. So if I assume A plus B plus D to be 5Z, then C comes out to be 2Z. This is what these equations are telling us. Now look at this, the beauty of this one. This representation versus our A plus D plus C representation, look at how much more beautiful this is. Here, what do I have to do? I see 5x plus 23x, which is equal to 28x, is equal to 5600. Therefore, x comes out to be 200. Therefore, my investment for A comes out to be 200 into 5 or 1000. Straight away, there are no four equations, no four unknowns. This is a equation in one variable, this is the equation in one variable. Very, very simple. So similarly, if we go from here, 11y plus 3y, which is equal to 14y, is equal to 5600. Therefore, y would come out to be 400 and 3y would come out to be 1200. 5z plus 2z is 7z. Again, this total should be equal to 5600. So 7z is equal to 5600, z would come out to be 800, and therefore my amount in C would come out to be 800 into 2, which is 1600. I also know that the total 1000 plus 1200 plus 1600 plus the amount of D is equal to 5600. Therefore, from here if I compute, D would come out to be 1800. Not very difficult, right? Look at it, it's not very difficult, it's actually pretty trivial, right? Provided that we are writing the right equations at right time. That's what we did in this case. We wrote a different kind of equation, and hence we were able to, we sort of got an insight into the problem, and hence we were able to solve it much more easily than the trivial method would have led us. Here again we have a problem. This problem might not look so difficult, but there is one thing that I want to bring here, and that's why I have chosen this problem. So this question is telling us that there are certain number of wagons in a train. So there are certain number of wagons, and each wagon has as many seats as there are number of wagons. What does it mean? It means that if a train has 10 wagons, each wagon has 10 seats. That's what this first line is telling us. One of the wagons, if you take one of the wagons, if you zoom into one of the wagons, it has 25%, and it is filled to 71 3/7% of its capacity. 71 3/7, this percentage translates to 5/7 in fraction, which means from every 7 seats, 5 seats are full. That's what it means. I multiply by 5, I divide by 5, it means the same thing, right? The same fraction would also mean that if 25 seats are full, total I should have 35 seats. 25% is actually filled, we know that. So total seats, how much I should have? 35 seats. Now I have 35 seats. I also know that number of wagons is as many as number of seats. Therefore, this is my total number of seats. Now from here things become very trivial. Here we are being told that train always has, at the minimum, it would have 20% of seats vacant. So it cannot be any less. 20% seats guaranteed would always be vacant. Therefore, maximum how many I can fill? 80%. So what is the maximum capacity? It is this number, which comes out to be 980. Right? Remember friends, we should be very fast here. Right? This is why I chose this problem. This is what I wanted to illustrate, that this translation from 71 3/7%, 25, how much of 71 3/7% is 25, right? That should be very fast. Right? The 35 should come very, very quickly, maybe within second, right? Within a second or so. It shouldn't take a lot of time. Moving on, this is the third problem. Again, not very complicated, it's actually simple, but there is a slight confusion here because of this margin business. So there is some margin thing given here. In that, students become little confused. So we'll delve into that a little bit. So let's see what this margin thing actually means. What it means is, the following, right? So this person is typing certain number of pages, right? That's what he's doing. He has a certain speed, of course, and he's leaving per page certain amount of margin. That's what is happening. Of course, we understand, right? I mean, if the margin increases too much, then he has to type less and less effort is required. He would go through the number of pages faster. If the amount of margin is reduced, he has to type more, right? This is side, the space left on the side, and top and bottom is margin. If this is increased, if this is decreased, he has to type more and he'll go through his pages slower, right? He will just take more time to complete certain number of pages. So this is what is going on here. So 20 lines he can type in 10 minutes and he's leaving 8% margin. So 8% space he is leaving blank out of 8 out of 100, which means how much is he actually typing on? 92%. This is the filled area. 92% is the filled area of a page. Find the time he would take to type 23 pages, 40 lines on each page. If he leaves, so now we are being given a new margin. And what is the new margin? 25% more margin than before. So it's just 25% of a new margin. Is this what the question is trying to say? Of course not, right? And this is where I don't know why students get confused here. But the question clearly says 25% more margin. So previously he was using 8% margin. Now he is using 25% more, which means 125 divided by 100, which comes out to be 10%. Right? So his new margin is 25% more, which means it is 10%. So previously it was 8%, now it is 10%. Now because he is using 10% margin now, what is his coverage area now? Previously it was 92% and now it is 90%. That much we understand. Now things become simple from here. We can just apply the work rate kind of things that we already did. So 20 lines are written in 10 minutes at 8% margin. So let's say that we keep the 8% margin constant. 40 lines would take how many minutes? 20 minutes. Right? Given that 20 minutes at 8% margin, 20 minutes at 92% coverage. So 20 minutes are taken for 92% coverage of 40 lines. 1% coverage would take 20 divided by 92. But of course, our new coverage is not 1% but 90%. So this is how we have translated the minutes to a new margin, right? So with this 20 minutes was on 8%, this we have translated them to 10% margin. This is how much time he would take to type 20 lines at 10% margin. But this is for one page. We have 23 such pages, correct? And the answer, if you calculate all of this, would come out to be 440 minutes, which is, if you choose, or if it's given in choices, you can convert to hours. Moving on, here again it's not difficult, right? I mean, if you are even this problem is not so difficult. If you are going by writing equations, it would seem like you just start calculating and ultimately you will arrive at the answer, but you will just take too much time. So let's go through this problem also. We assume that the original amount is 100x. Now his new amount is 6,000 more. That's what the problem is telling us. His initial tax rate was 18%. So he was paying tax at the rate of 18% here, and his new tax rate is 15%. So this is what he is paying now, and 25% in both the cases was free. So 25% of this one was free, 25% of 100x plus 6,000 is free. Here we are not charging any interest. This is what the question is telling us. Most students here would straight away write equations and try to solve this problem, and that is actually not too bad. So you will write it like this, and then 100x, but you are being charged tax on after 25%, which means only on 75% of the income, or 3/4 of the income you are being charged tax, and this tax is being charged at 18%. And this, we know that the tax in the first case and the second case, right? So there are two things which happened. The difference between first case and second case is there are two differences. First, the tax rate was reduced from 18 to 15%, and the second difference was, instead of earning only 100x, he is now earning 100x plus 6,000. So now he is earning 100x plus 6,000 and the new tax rate is 15 by 100, 15%, and of course here also we are being charged only on 3/4 of the income, only on 75% of the income, 25% income is tax free. One thing if you notice here, right, if you are noticing, if you are looking at it this carefully, is that this 3/4 and this 3/4 cancel, which essentially means that this 25% thing is redundant, which if you think about it a little bit makes sense, right? If 75% of two lines, 75% length of two lines happens to be equal, you are going to conclude very easily that those two lines are 100% equal anyways, right? Because 75% is equal, which means 100% thing should also be equal, right? That's what it means. Therefore, I can now argue that if the tax was being charged in both the cases, right, 18%, 15%, both the cases, is instead of applying tax on 75% of income, I were to apply it on the entire income, the two taxes would come out to be same. Even in this case, the two taxes would come out to be the same, and this is a key insight. I'll tell you why, right? Now let's understand the two taxes are coming out to be equal. You can say that this 6,000 at the rate of 15% must have produced certain extra tax, because the 6,000 was not present in the first case. So this must have produced certain extra tax, but for some reason in the second case we are not paying any additional tax. And why is that? That is because our tax rate on this 100x got reduced from 18 to 15%, or got reduced by 3%. So because of that, although we are paying more tax on this 6,000 rupees, we are paying less tax. How much less? 3% less tax on this 100x. And because the tax in both these cases is equal, this increase should balance out this decrease. Therefore, from here I can find out the value of x. It comes out to be 300, and my initial value, which is 100x, comes out to be 30,000. Right? Trivial, right? I mean, trivial if you start from here, right? This is much simpler equation to solve than this one. You would agree, right? This is much simpler. Let's look at another problem. Here we are talking about a company which is allowing 20% commission on sales. So there is some sales, and on that sales we are getting 20% commissions. But we are not only getting that 20% commission on sales. What are we also getting? We are getting 10% bonus, right? So it's a very good company. It's giving a lot of incentives. 10% bonus besides commission. So on top of this one commission, we are also getting a bonus. So calculating this commission, so we have to find the total earnings. So calculating this commission is trivial. So let's get that out of the way. It's 20% of this 10 lakh, which comes out to be 2 lakh. That one is trivial. Now here is the trick, right? This net profit business looks slightly complicated. So read that language very carefully. Right? Let's start with the net profit of 100x. This is our net profit, mind you, not total profit, net profit. From total profit, when we deduct the bonus or bonus, when we deduct, we get net profit. Or in other words, net profit plus bonus is equal to total profit. So I start with net profit. On this net profit, I gave 10% bonus, which means it should be 10x. Right? So the bonus is given on this net profit. This is what this problem is actually saying. So on this net profit of 100x, I am giving this bonus of 10x, and the total, if I add this together, I get total profit, which comes out to be 110x. And of course, we know that this 110x is equal to 132,000. Therefore, now this question, mind you, has come in real exam. So think how difficult the problems are coming down. This is such a convoluted thing. So you have to be smart when you are solving problems. So this x comes out to be 1200, of course, which means that our bonus comes out to be 12,000. So I can add it to the commission and I get 2,12,000 rupees. That's the final earning of the salesman. So the key here was to start with net profit. If you started with total profit, you would be actually writing some equations. Here we started with net profit and our problem became much more simpler. Now moving on to next problem. Here also we have a commission questions, and those are becoming little complicated nowadays. So even this problem is not so trivial. So here what are we being asked? We are being asked that there is a company which allows one of two things. If my sale is assumed to be 100x, then the company can allow a 7% commission on this sale. Either I can choose this one, this particular case, or another option, the company gives me other option, which is that for first 10,000 you don't get anything. The company doesn't pay anything on the first 10,000, and thereafter it gives me bonus at the rate of 4%. I am losing here, but what am I making up at? The company in this second case is giving me a fixed salary of 3,000. Even if I didn't make any sale, I would still get this 3,000 rupees. A particular salesman earned 800 rupees more in this case. That is what we are being told. So in this case, the salesman earned 800 rupees more. And we are being asked what was the total sales. We have to find the value of this 100x. So the way we approach this problem is that we make these two cases similar. We try to remove this difference of 3,000, the fixed quantity there, and we are trying, what we will try is that we will try to extend this line of 4% to the entire range, matching this 7% line. The 7% line ranges from 0 to whatever he is earning, 100x, and we will do the same thing with this 4% line. We want to extend it all over. So 800 rupees he is earning here because of this extra 3,000. If this extra 3,000 were not there, this fixed component was not there, there is no way he can earn more here. He would have to earn more in this case. So let's remove this extra 3,000. So if I remove this extra 3,000, he would have earned 2,200 less in this case, right? Because if I remove this extra 3,000, this case loses its advantage, and I would have earned 2,200 less in the second case, or in other words, I would have earned 2,200 more in this case, right? So now this 3,000 is actually gone. Now in the second step, let's try to compute what would happen if the company were to give this 4% commission on sales starting from 0. So instead of starting at 10,000, if commission was also given on this, the 4% commission was also given on these 10,000 rupees, the salesman in this case, in the second case, would earn 400 rupees more. Since he is earning 400 rupees more, instead of the difference, right, or instead of having an advantage of 2,200 in this case, we would only have an advantage of 1,800 more in this case, or in other words, he would have only earned 1,800 rupees more in this case, because this 400, right, I would get 400 more from here, which means the difference instead of being 2,200 would now become 1,800. Now this 1,800 difference, why is it coming? It is coming because I am given an extra 3%, right? 7 minus 4 is 3% on my sales, right? This is why this 1,800 rupees difference is coming. So from here we can solve for value of x, which comes out to be 600, and therefore 100x comes out to be 60,000. Right? Again, not very difficult, provided we go from first principles. We really understand the language of problem and try to convert it directly into a diagram instead of writing too many equations, making things more complicated, right? Sort of digging a ourselves into a hole. So we don't want to do that. We want to stay clear and focused on the problem 100%, right? Not on the maths, right? That's the key. So now with this we end our chapter on percentages. This last class what we discussed today is very important. Lot of problems are being asked nowadays which are not so direct. So you should practice and practice and practice the problems we discussed today and even more problems. If you have questions, do put them in the comments below. In the next class we would start discussing compound interest, which is becoming very important nowadays, and again it is extremely scoring. So do tune in, do subscribe to our channel, and good luck.